Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone, and welcome to the conference related to the issues of the Muslim world. My presentation, as you see, is about the utility of organization of Islamic cooperation in solving political crisis. And I try to make it very fast and, as Dr. Yoon said, to keep the time within 20 minutes. Before starting and going to the point, I just want to give you an introduction about the OIC, which is the contraction of Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which is the second largest international organization and founded in 25th September 1969, and the administrative center is in Saudi Arabia. So what made this structure to happen and this center to organization to appear was because of Six-Day War between Arab and Israeli war in 1967, and also the criminal arson of Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. So in fact, this organization became the collective voice of the Muslim world. So this is a place that the people or the communities of the Muslim world can speak their voice here. So the priority of the OIC is to create the basis for dialogue and cooperation and efforts to resolve the disputes and disparities between the member states. And so this organization has the potentiality to solve many of the problems of Islamic countries in this direction. Let's see the members. It has 57 members, and from different continents, 17 from African continent, African countries, 14 Asian, 21 Arab, 2 European and 2 South American countries. And if you see in the charts, you can see that there are also other centers and leagues within this big organization. Council of Arab Economic Unity, Arab League, and the Parliament Union of the OIC member states, and the Arab Maghreb Union. So they are also involved within this big center. You can see in this map that how the countries are distributed here. So the green ones are the member states, and the blue ones are the observers, and the red one is the suspended country, which is Syria right now, is suspended because of the chaos and the war and civil war which is happening there. So there are some principles for OIC, and they try to keep equality between member states and respect the sovereignty, and they want to settle the conflicts that may rise by peaceful means and negotiations, mediations, reconciliation, etc. And the aims and objectives of OIC is consolidation of Islamic unity and solidarity, and confronting terrorism, violence, extremism, and sectarianism, and also reinforcement of solidarity among societies. So these are the objectives that they try to keep in order to help each other to make and maintain peace and security in different regions. So the question now is that by knowing that this organization has lots of capacities from cultural, political, and social point of view, so right now we see that in fact it doesn't make any special and effective steps in order to maintain the peace and security in the region. And we can see that in the Middle East still there are chaos, wars, and terrors are happening. So why? So the question is how it has been successful in resolving disputes between member states and non-member governments, and what legal and political methods are applied by the OIC. So first of all, we want to see the positive things, which is actually taken as the steps by OIC. What are the plans for the settlement of disputes by OIC? So we see that the intensity of conflicts exists in every region, but some regions are more sensitive, like the Middle East. Why? Because it is like a conjunction it is like a junction between 3 continents. We know Africa, Europe, and Asia. So if terror, war, and chaos happen, it can easily spread to other regions. So this becomes very sensitive among the other regions in the world. So if you see here, this is the Middle East region, and if you just point any of these countries, you can see all of them, most of them, are either in war or they have some political crises and also chaos in them. So Palestinian and the resistance from conflict with the Israeli regime acts of violence against Muslim fundamentalists in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Afghanistan. Popular protest in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia war in Yemen, ethnic separatism of some ethnicities including the Kurds, religious conflicts between different Islamic sects, including Shia, Sunnis, and ethnic groups, are all examples of the conflicts which are happening in the Middle East. So, undoubtedly, one of the most important ways of resolving conflicts with other countries is diplomacy. To end the war and chaos and crisis in the region is to negotiate and to solve the problem with diplomacy. And accordingly, in the Charter of OIC, several issues are emphasized, which is in line with the Charter of the United Nations, such as efforts to resolve tensions, peaceful settlement of disputes, and maintaining peace and security among the countries. So we can see these are the steps taken by OIC, which is formation of Committee for Regional Compromise and Reconciliation. As the name suggests of this committee, we can see that it is in order to put an end to the conflicts by means of peaceful dialogue and negotiation. And establishment of International Court of Islamic Justice, which the court's statute adopted in 1987 considers the Islamic Sharias or Islamic law as the fundamental law to be applied by the court for the resolution of international disputes. Fight against terrorism and extremism is another step, and settlement of disputes among member states are all the steps taken by OIC, and they try to keep it and also to maintain peace and security among the Muslim world. So the OIC welcomed regional cooperation, and the 2 organizations of OIC and United Nations began to cooperate on the issues on Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Somalia, and Bosnia, etc. But let's take some countries' conflicts into view, like Iran and Iraq's war, which was one of the important issues which happened recently, actually in 1980s. As the outbreak of this war, a committee called the Good Office was formed, and the committee provided 2 plans for peace establishment between the 2 countries. But the organization was not able to make fair and systematic decisions in accordance with the charter of the organization. And the organization, by emphasizing on a ceasefire without the retreat of the aggressive forces of Iraq, particularly advocated the Iraqi regime. So we can see here the power of OIC wasn't that much powerful, in fact, in order to make a reconciliation between these 2 countries and stop the war. We have Kuwait occupation by Iraq here, and we see that again the OIC was only an observer. They only emphasized that Iraq should fully perform the United Nations Security Council resolution, but the main action happened by the Allied forces by the leadership of United States in 1991. We have Afghanistan civil war, which was in fact another issue that we can speak about. And after the withdrawal of the Soviet army from Afghanistan and the civil conflicts of Afghan Mujahideen groups, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, as a political standpoint in various meetings, including the 7th summit in Morocco 1994, expressed its deep concern about the Afghan civil war and emphasized the need for political understanding between the involved members and supported the efforts of Secretary General in this regard. We have Bosnia and Herzegovina, and also the Balkan crisis. Here, the Muslim world had one voice in order to stop the massacre in Bosnia, and they started to convince the United Nations to stop the arm embargo in Bosnia because they wanted to help them in order to defend themselves by arms, but still the OIC wasn't successful enough, and by the interference of United Nations and also the European Committee and also United States, they weren't that much agreed for the Islamic wards to send arms and to help the Bosnian Herzegovina in order to defend themselves. Syria crisis is the most recent problem which happened recently. The organization approaches to the Syrian crisis have been to adhere to the politics of the Arab League and follow the policies and actions of the United States. And the majorities of the member states in OIC are Arabs and members of the Arab League. So we can see they had more, in fact, effect on in order to solve this Syrian crisis. They didn't have the collective voice of world of Islam. It was much more the voice of the Arab League, and they suspended. Sorry.
Calm down.
No, it's okay.
Take it easy.
Sorry. And they suspended the membership of Syria in the OIC. So, reasons of OIC inefficiencies in maintaining peace and security in the Middle East are different points. And we can see it, and I have pointed it one by one because we don't have time, I don't go into detail. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation lacks the legal framework for executing the organization's approvals. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation is composed of heterogeneous and unbalanced countries having different political and cultural values and perspectives. So that's why, because of this diversity, they cannot come to one voice. Arab countries see themselves as the founders of the organization and budget provider of the OIC. And another point is, as like other international organizations, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation is struggling to win power among its members. And the OIC has a very basic structure and has no ability and readiness to confront the phenomenon of the 21st century. So, if I want to just come to a conclusion, we can see that the steps which are taken by OIC, we don't say there are no positive steps. There were positive steps, but most of the positive steps was economical and, like we can say, social, rather than political. So, from the political point of view, we can see that still OIC has no effects. And most of the countries are affected by the superpowers, like the European countries. And each of them are viewing their own benefits. That's why they cannot come to one single voice in order to maintain the peace and security. And still we see that the Syrian crisis is going over, and from the year 2011, the chaos is happening, war is happening, and terrorism is happening there, and they couldn't stop it. Because we can see that it is not OIC itself. We can see that the powers of the other countries which are not the members of the OIC there. So that's why they cannot come to a collective voice. And this is the defect, one of the biggest defects of OIC, which cannot solve the conflicts. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for your interesting presentation and saving the time.